I'm Adrienne Giffen. Welcome to Now You're Talking, the podcast. I believe real conversation connects us in a distracted world. One of the greatest gifts you can give your family and yourself is your presence. Because leadership doesn't begin at work, it begins at home. This is your space to pause, to listen, to reflect. Your journey toward deeper connections starts right here. Today, I'm joined by Amanda Lim, women's metabolic health expert, Harvard certified coach, co-founder of Singapore's first metabolic health clinic, and co-host of the 40s Formula podcast. In this conversation, Amanda shares why metabolic health matters so much for women, especially during pregnancy and motherhood, and how strength training, nutrition, and daily habits can have a powerful impact on long-term health. If you've ever wondered how to balance health, work, family, and the demands of modern life, this conversation offers both insight and encouragement. Let the conversations begin. Amanda, very nice meeting you, and I'm looking so forward to hearing more about your passion for health and helping women to stay strong and be stronger. You're an entrepreneur. You're a mother of 3. How do you do it all?
Oh, gosh. Well, Adrienne, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me onto the podcast. Doing it all is an interesting concept, right? I always, I empathize with the statement that you can do it all, but not at once. Or even if you want to stratify that more, you can do it all, but not at the same level, right? So we're not getting A+ in every single category every single day. We are at least getting a passing grade in some and hopefully passing with flying colors in others.
Yeah. So, well, that's great advice, because as women, we believe we can be everything to everybody and get torn in so many directions. Share a little bit about your passion for fitness and share what is metabolic healthcare. I have no idea.
Well, gosh, I had no idea until just a few years ago. I am 7 years into a wonderful marriage with my husband, who's a physician.
Perfect. Wonderful.
And about 4 years ago now, I'm like, what year are we in? We started a medical clinic together. So he's obviously the physician on residency, and then I'm the metabolic health director. So I kind of cover all the day-to-day pieces while he actually, throws down the medical side of things. The medical approach to metabolic health is diverse. If we're talking about it scientifically, we're referring to the way that your body processes fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Mm-hmm. So metabolism, it refers to the way that your body intakes, processes, partitions, and lets go of energy. So for example, the most common metabolic problem that we see in clinic is weight gain or unwanted weight gain. Yes. And that's related to the intake of energy, obviously through food. It's also related to the storage of energy in fat cells, for example. And it's also related to the partitioning of energy. Let's say you have insulin resistance, for example, where your body's not doing the right thing with the energy that you're taking in. So any dysfunction along the line is what we deal with at Lift Clinic.
Boy, and it's amazing to me what has to work for all of us to be healthy. And that varies from stage to stage of our life cycle.
It does.
And you're writing a book now, and can you share a little bit more about that and just share, what your focus is?
Yeah, I'm writing a book called Motherhood Rebuilt, and it's helping pregnant and early postpartum mothers achieve metabolic health, unsurprisingly.
Yes. And you were saying before we started recording that we've been told, or you've been given a sort of a false perspective.
Absolutely.
About health.
I feel that
at that stage,
by and large, women are being told one of two. Well, let's go 3 paths. The first path is rest is best. So you're pregnant now, you're fragile, Ming vase, you cannot be touched, you might break. That's one narrative. Again, hopefully that one's on its way out. Gosh, if you know anything about women over the millennia, it's that we are nothing if not physically capable. Capable.
Yeah.
I would say let's let that one die. The second one, slightly better, is that, yeah, sure, you can exercise in pregnancy, you can do yoga, and you can walk. And by the way, I did yoga and walk throughout my entire pregnancy. I think these are actually cornerstones of pregnancy fitness for a few reasons, but they cannot be part and parcel. They have to just be a little bit of the equation. The third, and again, this is not the best narrative either. The third is that you just keep doing what you're doing. So for athletic moms like myself who are lifelong athletes, they're like, don't change a thing, plow through, go ahead, just, bulldoze through your pregnancy and you're going to be fine. And that comes with risks as well, right? We don't have the same bodies when we are pregnant. We are affected by several different factors outside of our control. The obvious one being hormones, but secondarily being the reorganization of our internal organs, the opening of our pelvis, the introduction of certain hormones that make our ligaments looser. So these are things that if we just bulldoze ahead with the previous program, well, we're going to have a bit of a problem waiting for us on the other side.
Yeah. So what do you? So those are the three scenarios. So what is the ideal?
Yeah. So what I recommend is first that, all allied health professionals, all the way from obstetricians down to coaches, personal trainers, even doulas and midwives, that the entire allied health professional team supporting a pregnant woman is on board with the assumption that preserving muscular strength and function is a top priority for pregnant women. It's not an afterthought. It's not an if you were fit before, then, but don't start training now. No, pregnancy is an ideal time to begin pursuing your journey of muscular strength and function. It's not a dangerous time. It's a necessary one.
Well, that's interesting. So even though muscles are being, we're all being stretched in different ways, because maybe it's a myth too that, you don't want to start weight training if you're too young because you're still developing. And pregnancy is a situation where the body's changing too. So can you just expand a little bit more on that, please?
I absolutely will. Yeah. So there, when I say fundamental strength and function, I'm referring to some of the movement patterns that we need to maintain. Now, whether or not you load these patterns is less important than the fact that you can perform them. So for example, a squat, this is the easiest example, right? So we are designed to squat all the way through pregnancy because a lot of us deliver in those positions and our body is meant to go into that position. So if we avoid the squat movement pattern, for example, for fear or uncertainty, then we're actually compromising what's intended as one of our fundamental movements through the motherhood experience. We should be able to squat from day one to day wherever your pregnancy ends. For me, 42 weeks in some cases. So you should, some rough cases. So both my boys put me through the ringer on overturned pregnancies, but we should be able to maintain these. Another example is when we're pregnant, our chest tends to grow in size, right? We tend to develop larger breasts. They obviously get heavier with milk. So we need to be able to have stronger back muscles to counteract the natural forward lean that those larger breasts will do. So we need to put into place some preventive strength measures to make sure that we aren't being compromised by pregnancy.
Yes.
It's not that we need to build gigantic muscles. It's that we have to have better, more functional muscles to counteract some of the body changes that are inevitable.
That's interesting. Where did your passion for this mission of yours to help women and for women to maintain and grow their strength, where did it come from?
Yeah. Well, I've always been interested in women's health as a broad umbrella. That's something that I went to school for. My master's degree in medical sociology was on the determinants of morbid obesity in women. So looking at a BMI above 40, so this really dangerous level of obesity. How do we get there? Why does it happen? What are some of the things that make this level of obesity unique from just being overweight, right? So that was what I looked at back in 2009 when I was getting my master's degree. And while I was doing that master's degree, I was a poor graduate student like we all were. And I was looking for some cash on the side. And I thought, you know what? I got this personal training certificate that I got during my first master's degree. Why not put that to use and start kind of a side gig? So I'll start a side gig. At the time, it was called Benefit. I was in Los Angeles. And Benefit was a company aimed at improving women's health through personal training and nutrition. And I thought, okay, that's a nice little business I'll run on the side while I'm studying obesity. There's some great synergy there. Well, by the end of my master's degree, when I was walking out the door, I had more business out of benefit, then I had papers published from my master's degree. And I was like, these are competing interests at this point. There's only one me. There's only so much time. Back to the original point of you can't do it all. Yeah. And I thought it's time to choose. Am I going to be writing papers, in a lab or, in my computer in my office, or am I going to be working with women to actually transform their eventual obesity outcomes? And I thought, for me, given where my passion lied, given how I love working with people, you can probably get a sense I love talking to people. Yeah. I didn't actually see the academic life ahead. So I ended up building my business from 2009 in Los Angeles all the way until I moved to Singapore in 2015.
Listen to that. That's fascinating. And so you being a mother of three and an entrepreneur, and you and your husband started this business from scratch?
Correct. Yeah, we started this business in 2022 from scratch.
Wow. And that comes with a lot of challenges. Challenges.
Start to finish, everything from renovating the building to be, because our model is unique in that we have a gym, a full functioning gym, but also a certified medical clinic. So we have those two things coexisting. So you can imagine there's noise concerns that, it's like, we want the gym to be functional, but we don't want the consult room to be too loud. And so it's like we have these, very specific. So even from the design element of the business, it's been challenging.
Yeah. And so how do you do that, all of that, and being a mother of a 5 and a 4 and a 1-year-old?
Yeah.
How do you do it?
I think this harkens back to my bigger point that women are immeasurably capable, physically, mentally, what we can take on emotionally. And again, sometimes to our detriment in that we take on too much emotionally, and then it obviously compromises the mental and the physical. But what I'll say is it helps being in really good shape. It helps being in really good shape for about anything you want to do in life. And when it comes to being pregnant and starting a business and building a business through pregnancies, with the obvious, ebbs and flows of that, I think that having a baseline of physical strength gives you the mental assurance that you can do this. It makes you feel powerful when you walk into a room. It makes you feel capable when you're talking to a client or a patient. I think my physical capability was always what gave me the assurance that I could professionally perform.
Okay. And you are walking the talk. I mean, people would look at you.
Walking it.
Yeah. Walking it. You are walking it. And so, so people see that and they know you're genuine and you're authentic. And where does nutrition come into it? Is that part of the whole metabolic health piece?
Great question, Adrienne. I would say nutrition is where metabolic health gets serious, if that makes sense. So we can always work on our physical fitness at any point in life, meaning there's always never too late to start, first of all. And there's always room for improvement. There's always something we can work on a little stronger, a little faster, a little more flexible. When it comes to nutrition, massive body composition changes come from nutrition. So you can start a nutrition journey from a hospital bed, meaning you don't need to have physical function to make great metabolic improvements. Diet is where it starts.
So when you say diet, you don't mean diet, but what we eat, what we consume.
What we eat, exactly. The composition of our meals,
Okay. Because again, as moms, and we're on the run and we're, taking kids here and there, sometimes that sort of stuff gets so far down the line. And especially, our kids may eat well, but we won't because we're...
And that's something I address in my book. It's a problem that we would pay more attention to our children's nutrition, and the opposite would be true for us. Not that we just have a slightly less good, but I mean, it's almost the opposite. It's like they're eating beautifully and we're eating junk. And I mean, you see that across the board with busy moms. And I think if we take the attention that we pay to our children's nutrition and we simply turn that light back on ourselves, you realize how much it matters what goes in our bodies. If you care about what goes in your child's body, you need to care about what goes in your own, because at the end of the day, you being around and you being healthy is what those kids really want.
Yeah, that's so true. Having 4 little kids way back when, they're all adults now. That's when I started eating really quickly because I didn't. I still find myself doing that. Because I thought, it was sort of like survival. Okay, well, I'm on to the next thing, and this is just something I need to do, but let's not enjoy it. Let's just
And I will say, this may not be, speaking from that immediate experience, this may not be the season for long, enjoyable meals. This may not be the season for chewing every bite 20 times and really savoring. This may not be the time for that, moms. If you're in my stage of parenting, sometimes you gotta let that go. But that being said, it is absolutely the stage of what I call the go-to meal, where I know in the morning when I wake up what my breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks will be. I know that because I planned it the night before. And then when I'm in the moment and I'm super busy, I'm executing. I'm not thinking and wondering and choosing. That's all been done last night. Today I execute. Wow. So when I wake up, there's a smoothie, my blender's out on the counter.
Yes.
I've got my smoothie fixins in the fridge. I literally dump the cup, press the button, and I'm out the door. This is the type of thing that I have time for. 1 second of button pushing. I do not have time to think through, is it eggs today? Maybe I'll do a cereal. Nope. I got 1 second, button in a cup. And because I put in the few moments of preparation last night, I know that what's in that cup is what I want it to be. It's the correct balance of nutrients for me. So go-to meals is my biggest tip for moms that are like me.
But so you wait till your kids are in bed and then you organize everything.
Yep. And it takes me 5 minutes. I mean, this is not something I sit there, I think of the meme with, all the mathematics on the blackboard. It's not like that. My meals are simple and repetitive, and that's why they're successful.
So how are you managing with the 3 kids and thinking of, in this digital era? When I raised my kids, I didn't have all these complexities that young moms do now. So what are your thought pattern? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
This is any moms with teenagers or tweens watching me come about what I'm about to say. They'll be like, yeah, wait till you get there. And they're right. And they're right, because I have the blessed ignorance from my children of things like individual phone ownership or social media. What they know about a phone is basically that it's a tiny TV and that every now and then cartoons and Blippy and whatever pop up on there. They have no sense of scrolling or chatting or any of those things that are obviously the real concerns in digital hygiene for tweens and teens. What I will say is this: we do enforce some pretty strict screen time rules for our kids in the same way that we enforce a strict bedtime, in the way that we enforce a meal schedule. So it's not that it is so limiting and, ascetic and Spartan that it's impossible. It's just that they know that they don't have access to uncontrolled screen time, just like they do not have access to a bedtime after 7:30. They do not have access to junk food in the house, right? It's limiting the pipeline at this age rather than trying to kind of speculate on what the future may hold.
So then it's all well thought out then.
We try. And I think every parent out there is trying their best to navigate what is an unknown and scary kind of landscape.
Yeah, no question. It is. That's partly why I like to bring parents together, because we all have different perspectives. So tell me, what's it like working with your spouse for 24 hours? All these dynamics you're dealing with.
A lot of dynamics in my life, right? And some of them, unexpected. It's the only thing that works for us. I have to be honest with you. It's the only thing that works for us. And we are that annoying couple where we talk about work all the time. I mean, it's like, if we're not talking about our kids, we're talking about work. If we're not talking about work, we're talking about the kids. And what's great about that is that some other coworker doesn't have to, be on the receiving side of that information dump, because we're both equally caring about these two things. Yeah. It's been wonderful. I mean, we were running separate but parallel businesses. So I should comment, before 2022, when we actually started the joint clinic, she was running a clinic and I was running a gym. And they were next door to each other. So we were already in kind of a tandem business model from 2018. So for 4 years, we kind of ran the side by side, where I'd say, hey, you might need some blood work. Maybe you need to go next door. And then he would say, hey, if you want some tips on managing your gestational diabetes, my wife's a nutritionist. I mean, so we were already doing the model that we do now in one house. But what I'll say is, when you are working with your spouse, I would say the biggest tip that I can possibly give is to make sure that you do not let the day-to-day and the grind and the admin detract from the vision and the mission, because it is very easy to get catty with each other about small details and kind of forget the reason that we're here, the reason we built this business. So we do need to take a step back every now and then when we're getting into the throes of it and say, you know what, like, what's the benefit to the patient? What's the benefit to the client? Can we get can we see eye to eye through this?
And so tell me in a few words, what is the mission and vision? Why are you doing this?
Yeah. So because we're based in Singapore and we are the first and only metabolic health center here in Singapore, our mission is to reduce the chronic disease load and improve the daily health of Singaporeans.
Well, that's a wonderful mission. And you're doing it in your own way that's aligned and different.
And very unconventional. You know, it's rare that you would walk out of a doctor's office, a medical doctor's office, with a prescription for food and exercise. But that's exactly what you get with Live Clinic.
Oh, that's very, very leading edge. I mean, it's simple, but so leading edge.
Yeah. And for us, it's so obvious, right? Because, you know, when we are presented with a problem, we immediately go to the lifestyle factors to dissect that problem. Whereas I do think, and again, I haven't been in America for 11 years, but my memory of the system there was that you walk out with a bag of pills and potentially less understanding around the lifestyle factors that are affecting your condition.
So it very much is a holistic approach.
You
probably ask a lot of questions.
Our intake form is, I mean, it's not a 5-minute intake, you know, where, you know, we ask if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. It's a whole to do, you know, where we know your sleep schedule and we see your records of your heart rate and all these things. But we practice what's called lifestyle medicine, which has 6 pillars. And they are food, exercise, sleep, stress management, the avoidance of risky substances, alcohol, tobacco, and drugs, and social connection. And so those 6 pillars are what form the basis of our approach with patients.
Okay. And is there a spiritual component in that, or is that the social?
I think social connection. Yeah, exactly. I would say that's their you know, secular catch-all.
Yeah. And Amanda, who are you as a coach? Because I saw on the website that you are the coach.
I am the coach.
People. Yeah. So who are you that makes you unique as a coach?
Yeah. Well, I think you may have gotten this sense even in our little discussion off air, but I am unapologetically, unabashedly, and forever an optimist. I will not accept that people are destined to fail. I will not accept that, again, women are fundamentally anything less than capable. And so I coach my clients based on those 2 assumptions, that you are capable and you can change, not the opposite.
Can you tell us, without naming names, but are there a couple of real success stories that you can share?
Gosh, yes. I'll share one that's a mother, because I feel like that's an important one to share. So this is a mom. This is well before I had kids. This is in 2016 that I was interacting with this client, and she had 3 kids. Her youngest was 14. So, I mean, this is not a pregnancy postpartum story. This is a well down the line, you know, seasoned mother story. And when she came to me, she was extremely overweight. She had low energy. She felt a little bit like what I think you described, Adrienne, where she had lost herself in motherhood for so many years. She was stay-at-home mother, one of my least favorite terms. She's a full-time mother, meaning she didn't have a profession outside the home, and she didn't really know how to get out of it. She was seeing the writing on the wall that in 4 years she would be an empty nester, right? Because her eldest had already been out of the house and her middle was graduating. And so she knew that motherhood as she'd known it was coming to an end, you know, in terms of the day-to-day. So she was like, I want to change. So she and I went through a very intensive program together. I was seeing her 3 times a week for personal training. I was completely scripting her meal plan, her macronutrient intake, her calorie intake. She was executing that obviously at home. And then we would have coaching sessions once a week. It was just like an hour debrief where we would talk through all the challenges from the week. And in the beginning, those debriefs were things like, oh, you know, I had trouble, making the chicken breast in the amount because by the 3rd day it wasn't tasting so good. It was rubbery. You know, in the beginning, it was these instrumental day-to-day things. By the end of our time together, those coaching sessions had become a lot like therapy sessions in the sense that we were talking through the fundamental limiting beliefs that had led her to gain so much weight. That she didn't deserve to look a certain way. She didn't deserve to spend a certain amount of money improving her health. She didn't deserve to take time for meal prep because that was, in her mind, taking away from what she owed her children and owed her husband, right? Because he was the main breadwinner. And so we worked through a lot of mindset. And by the end of that journey, she had lost over 30 pounds. She was deadlifting her body weight, which was, a much lighter body weight now after losing the 30 pounds, but meaning she was 1x her body weight. She was working out on her own. And this is something that I think a lot of fitness professionals don't see as the eventual goal. They want to hold on to the client forever, right? Because that's their meal ticket.
Yeah.
I'm like Mama Bird, where I want you to get your wings and fly. I want you to own your capability in the gym. I want you to be intrinsically motivated to get out there and do a run. I don't want to be holding your hand and in some cases dragging you with a rope for the entirety of your fitness journey, right? So what I try to do with my clients is empower them to get the tools to confidently pursue their fitness journeys on their own. And she was able to achieve that. So in just that 1 year of working, it was really like 16 months. So almost a year and a half of working together. She lost all the weight that she was looking to lose. She gained muscularity and function she didn't even know that she was looking for, but was so happy to have. No one ever said, man, it sucks being strong and capable. No one ever says that to me. Okay. So they're real happy when they get stronger and more functional. And then thirdly, she was able to really do some of that mindset work that she had been pushing off during her mothering, her intense mothering years.
Yes. Well, isn't that? So that in itself is so, it's all encompassing.
All encompassing. And that's really what coaching is. I love a personal trainer. I was a personal trainer for many years, but a personal trainer is not a coach. A personal trainer is instructing you how to exercise. And that's extremely valuable as a skill, but it isn't someone that's going to be able to kind of push you the whole way.
So knowing what you know now, what would you, just talk about the first thing that comes into your mind, whether as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as a spouse, knowing what you know now as a coach, what would you do the same and what would you do differently?
That is really the big question, Adrienne, because I do try to be someone, again, back to the unrelenting optimism, that doesn't live with regrets, that does not look backward in the sense of regret, looking backward, obviously, to find nuggets, solve problems, right, about everything.
Yeah.
But if there was something I would do differently when it came to motherhood, it would be to release expectations around what motherhood should look like. I was someone who went into motherhood over-prepared. I have a friend named Kate Mason, and she calls this the preparation expectation that women put on themselves, which is I can't just arrive at a situation. I have to be imminently prepared for every possible which way that this will go, right? So I have to read every book. I have to go to every class. I have to have every, health professional. So I had a doula and I went to the prenatal classes. And again, this is with a husband who is a physician, right? So who has delivered actual human babies. And I'm still like, no, I got to go to the antenatal class. And he's in the background like, you do you. But knowing that we had this, right? Knowing that this was something we could definitely have. But I was just knee deep in the resources, knee deep in the writing. And again, in some way, there's definitely some books that I encountered during that time that I would still absolutely recommend to anyone who's expecting. But what I will say is I think I went a bit overboard on it. And in so doing, unknowingly created expectations. One of which was that I could have a natural unmedicated birth or that I should have one. One of which was that I should breastfeed and breastfeed for as long as possible. One of which was that I should have the least intervention possible in my birth and early postpartum, right? That I should just be able to kind of get through it on my own and be fine. All three of these with that first baby were put to rest and challenged. I had a breech baby with my first pregnancy and I was unable to deliver naturally and I had to have a C-section. And it came into conflict with everything that I had believed about what I could do and what I could control. And thank goodness, because that's definitely a lesson you want to learn early, which is that you must surrender so much control and you will have an easier route through parenthood. Trying to control is one of those spinning your wheels, one step forward, two step back type of things. You have to be able to relent and surrender to the knowledge that what will be, will be.
Yes. That takes that's a lifetime of learning for me, Amanda. I have to say, yeah. Was that, was that society telling you that you should do those three things?
Absolutely not.
Was that you?
Absolutely not. That was
you.
What strength looked like, what achievement looked like, right?
I gotcha.
I'm strong enough to have this baby with no drugs. I should be able to give this birth vaginally. I am so, all powerful woman. And that was tied into an identity that I believed about myself and still believe, that I am capable and strong, but that it was a mark of that. And to not do that was a failure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, but probably a place of huge growth, because at that point you had to say, I release these pressures that I put, for now. You're going to have to continue to release and release. What have you done well that you want to share lessons?
Yeah. Well, so what I think I've done well, and I think what draws most women to me as a coach and hopefully soon to my book, is that as opposed to the perspective when life gets busy, when life gets chaotic, the first thing that goes is my health and fitness. First thing I let go is my diet, my fitness routine, my nutrition, all that. Mm-hmm. For me, that undercurrent has been such a reassuring and motivating constant in my life. I have always been fit. I have always been an athlete. I have always lived in a body that is strong, powerful, and capable. And I never will let that go. So as opposed to it lying on the surface and being the first thing that goes, it's so fundamental to my being that it's untouchable. And I think if there's one message that I could give to women about reframing where health fits into your life, it is at your core. It's not an extra. It's not the first thing that goes. It's in fact the last thing that you can let life chip away at, because without it, everything is harder.
Yes, it can be small baby steps. It's eating a little bit differently, but not all at once. It can just be little steps. And
it has
for
to
me, because for me, that's more manageable. To try to do it all is so overwhelming. We can stay stuck.
Yeah. And in moments of overwhelm, it is not helpful to think about the big picture or the long game outcome. It is absolutely helpful. And this is something I would say is most relevant to the immediate postpartum period.
Yes.
Is you just have to do the best you can on that day. So you've got that 24 hours, and it really does feel like 24 hours when you're awake around the clock with that baby. What can you do 1% better in that little block of time? And then, the day resets and you try again. It's literally thinking about survival mode, like you said, day by day. But within survival, there is still room for choice. There is still room for, exerting a little bit of control over your choices. So I think, zeroing down on what's within your control is very, very helpful.
Yeah. No, that's great. May I ask you a couple of questions off of my board game now you're talking?
I would love it. Yes, let's play.
Okay. Who would play you in a movie about your life?
Well, I was recently told by several Singaporeans that I look like Millie Bobby Brown. So I guess I'm going to have to, I'm first of all, I'm flattered. And second of all, Millie girl, call me. We'll do it.
Okay. Perfect. What is your greatest accomplishment?
Motherhood. No question. Nothing above that.
So that's inspiring. I thought this was perfect for you. Well, stranded on a deserted island, what would that one food be?
Gosh, I mean, if we're on a deserted island, this is both relevant to the environment, but relevant to what I would really say fish. I'm a huge fish and seafood fan, so I would be all into whatever local fish were swimming around my island.
Okay. And you would say that would be sustaining for you.
Absolutely. I mean, again, if we want to get into the metabolic health perspective of it, right? We would just need fish and fat. So maybe I'd have to pull a coconut down every now and then. But yeah, we're doing fish and a healthy fat.
What life experience changed the course of your life?
Meeting my husband. When I met my husband, I was going through a divorce with my ex-husband, and I was here in Singapore as an American. I was not yet on my own work pass. So I was not yet on an independent work pass. I was what's called a dependence pass. So I was still attached to my ex-husband.
Yes.
at that point, I was thinking, I don't think I'm going to be in a partnership again. I was thinking this is a sign. And by the way, at the tender age of, 35, I was like, this is a sign that I'm meant to be someone who is, alone, empowered, but capable. And then I met my husband and everything changed. Everything about what I had designed for my life, what I had thought about myself, what I needed. And down to the fundamental choice to have children. You can find me on record in my 20s and 30s talking about my choice to not have kids. Because at that time, that's how deeply I believed that narrative. And when I met my husband, it rocked my world. And he so much wanted a family. He comes from an traditionally Asian family with deep running family values. And I thought that he's out of his mind. And I should comment for the listeners, he's 6 years younger than me. So I thought, who is this young fella talking about having kids? He's in his 20s still. I was like, what does he even know? And I will tell you, meeting him was the biggest paradigm shift of my life.
I love that story. That's great, Amanda. But what's a small decision? Because that was probably a very big one that you didn't know it was going to change the course of your life. But what's a small decision that had a big impact?
Ooh, that's a tougher one because you kind of forget all the small ones in light of the big ones that happen. I would say, oh God, this is the toughest one so far, Adrienne. A small decision. Okay, this is seemingly small, but my youngest son is 1. And here in Singapore, it's conventional to send your kids to what's called playgroup or PG at 18 months. And we won't be. We're actually keeping my son home until he's 3 years old and he starts formal schooling here with what's called Nursery 1. And it's an unconventional choice and seemingly small. Who cares? Keeping him home, bringing him to playgroup. His older siblings are already at that same school where the playgroup exists. But that small decision for us is about giving my youngest more time with his grandparents. So he stays home with his ama akong in the mornings and they have walks and outings and playtime. And we felt that giving him those years with them that, because they are older and he's my youngest and I'm already quite old, that time is limited. So we thought that was a better choice for us.
Well, that's wonderful. And everybody wins in that.
Everybody wins. Yeah. Adrienne, this is what I say about intergenerational living all the time when my American friends are like, you're crazy. You live with the in-laws. I said, absolutely everyone wins in this situation, believe it or not.
Yeah, well, that's great. One final question, Amanda. What advice would you give to high school graduates today?
I mean, this is going to sound like an echo, but if there's one thing I can say to high school graduates, to those young teens on the precipice of life, it is to take your health seriously. Do not squander one of the most precious resources that you have been given, your physical health. It is likely at its peak right now, and there are many choices that you can make that may impact your long-term future. And so without, sounding like a scary old lady, if you can think about your health as something that matters to you and not an afterthought, it will serve you well for decades to come.
Yes, wonderful words. Words of wisdom. What are some words of wisdom over and above what you've already said that you can share with parents who might be listening, entrepreneurs, who might be listening?
Yeah, I think the message that I give, when I'm talking to my mothers, particularly, right, in clinic about, the impact of their long-term health, it is to consider what you want for your future. It's so easy, especially when we have little kids, to get caught up in the day-to-day and what we are doing now and what we are eating today and what we are, the workout that we didn't get to this afternoon. But if you can consider what you want for your kids in the future, do you want to be, first of all, there for them? Especially as an older mom, this is something that's constantly on my mind. I had my first baby at 38, my last one at 41. It's 37 and 41, excuse me. And it's something I constantly think about is, will I be there for their kids as a grandparent? Secondly, what do you want that to look like? Do you want to be a burden on your kids, or do you want to be an active, involved, positive part of their future lives? And if the answer is the latter, and I hope for most of us it is, think about what you can do today to take one tiny step toward being the active, healthy, involved person that you want to be for them in the future. Because it really is true. Your current physicality is the summary of the recent habits that you've had. So if you are somewhere that you don't want to be in your health, all you need to do is make a different change today so that tomorrow and weeks and months down the line, you will be living in a different body.
Because it's an accumulative thing, isn't it?
That's it.
And we can make small choices. And again, I go back to how monumental these little tiny choices can be.
Tiny choices, right?
Tiny choices, yeah.
James Clear, he calls it the compound interest, meaning your habits, right? What you get is the compound interest of tiny investments in your health.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful, Amanda. Thank you very much for sharing. And it's really great to hear your passion and how it just runs so deep, and that you are walking your passion every day.
Thank you.
Helping other moms along their journey. So thank you very much for joining me today. It's been wonderful to meet you.
Same. Thanks again.
Thank you for being part of the conversation with Amanda Lim. Her insights are a powerful reminder that strength isn't just about pushing harder. It's about understanding your body and making small, intentional choices and building habits that support your health for the long term. I'm Adrienne Giffen, and you've been listening to Now You're Talking, the podcast. If this conversation mattered to you, follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Instagram. And if you haven't already, sharing, subscribing, or leaving a review helps more people to stay connected in a distracted world. Because leadership begins at home, and it continues with one conversation at a time. Join us next week for more conversations that matter. Let the conversations begin. Now you're talking.
I'm Michelle Abraham, and we are honored to have Adrienne Giffen's Now You're Talking podcast on our High Vibe Podcast Network. For more high vibe shows like hers, head on over to highvibepodcastnetwork.com and grab your free gift from our gift vault from all of our hosts. Until then, stay high vibe.